All right, we're live. Who all is in the house? Well, it looks like the first person here was Unfinished Project, unsurprisingly. Dart Sport. Torque Racing Production is in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Torque Racing Production, by the way, he is at 473 subscribers. He's one of the people running in the Roadkill Customs No Name 500, and he's getting close to making it. So we're going to do what we can do to help him. NSB Custom Cars. Now that if you haven't seen them, you need to check them out.
Okay.
68 Dart Big Block Lenco has a chute on the back, and they have a
Lenco,
rickshaw.
really?
It's a Lenco, and they have a rickshaw they pull with it. Mopar Man 1978 is here. The Wrench, Dean Stevenson.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Dust Devil Garage Brian. Brian, how's that car coming?
What's up, Bri?
You got 160 days. How's that car coming? John Mounts, Big Belly Racing. Peckerwood Customs. By the way, Aaron there, Peckerwood Customs, he's from Australia, and he's coming in for the No Name Nationals.
You're kidding me.
Oh, no, man. He's his first trip to America.
Wow.
No and he wants to come here for that. So I look forward to meeting Aaron. And I think what time is it for you, Aaron? It's like crazy o'clock in the morning or something. So I don't know what time it is there.
It's probably breakfast.
Bubba Ayers is here. Bubba Ayers has 430-ish subs, so he's another of our Roadkill Customs No Name 500 entrants who's getting close. Nancy Cook, my Aunt Nancy, is here.
Hi, Aunt Nancy.
Yeah, she is so cool. She's so cool. She started enjoying these shows, and everybody knows. I haven't got the video up yet, but I managed to buy her van that she bought new in 1985, and she hadn't seen it in 20-some years. And today I got the last of the captain's chair and sent her a picture of that. So
what kind of van is it, John?
It's an 85 Dodge B150.
No kidding.
Yeah, so it still is real solid and all. But what I want to do is I want to kind of upgrade the drivetrain to a B200. So I want to put an A518 in it and a 9 1/4.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll build a nice stroker small block. And then it will be a really good tow rig.
Yeah.
That's the plan. And I need to find somebody who knows something about the A518. But, those people are hard to come by. I see Buzz is in the house. Buzz, you like the new artwork I've got on the top? I like this view because when you put your comments up, it doesn't shrink the guests. But I never did like the space at the top. So I got the logos up there, and Buzz is here. Buzz is going to be working with we're going to have another creator workshop for the No Name 500 guys here real soon. Might as well just ask on here, Buzz. I'm kind of thinking of not obviously not 2 days from now, but I'm thinking that first Sunday in May, whatever that is like, it might be the first, whatever that is. That's what I'm thinking for the next creator workshop. So we'll get together on that. But those creator workshops are good. The No Name 500 guys, they have an opportunity to go there and learn. It'll be me. It'll be Blake from Bad Tree Productions. It'll be Buzz from Roadkill Customs. And we help those guys get their channels fine-tuned to get their 500 subscribers so they'll be eligible for the No Name Nationals. So,
and John, can I ask you? I've heard you say that terminology. Is just that the list of guys that have not hit 500 subs yet?
Right. There are currently 33.
Okay.
There are 33 guys who are running in the Roadkill Customs No Name 500. And there are 14. There are 14 who have made it and taken their personal checkered flag. And they're in it. So we got 33 more who need to get it. Hey, I watched your channel climb up from under 500 subs and then over 1,000 subs in that. John Trudell's in here. Patrick, mostly old parts and rust. We have William Sanders. Buck Does It. Andrew Nelson. Oh, man, the place just got a lot faster. Look out. The Wrench, Robert Magny. See, they all kind of file in. We got 24 in here now. So once they see live, they slide in. Junk Car Willie. Boy, there's a guy who just came out of nowhere. He has a neat channel, but he went from some guy I'd never heard of to having all kinds of cool videos, and now he has his subscribers already, and he never even registered before until so.
No kidding.
I don't know how that guy did it, but it's pretty amazing.
All right.
Yes, Buzz, we'll be in touch. We'll mention that again once we have more people in here. Dust Devil's back. He sneaked in and said hi, and now he's sneaking back in and saying,
"Oh, I see.
I see. See how he operates. That's about like Brian right there. How's that car coming, Brian? What did you do today? All right, we got a pretty good crowd in here now. I like to take a first few minutes to greet everybody because you guys are the reason that we do this. If I want to hang out and bench race with John Cope, we can do that offline, but we like to do these live because we want to hang out with you guys. So this is our guest. This is John Cope, Cope Racing Transmissions.
What's up, fellas?
I thought this would be a really cool, different kind of live. What I understand, John Cope is wanting to come to the No Name Nationals and have some fun with all of us, and I look forward to that. So tell us about your plans for the No Name Nationals and how you heard about this and what it is you're looking forward to.
Well, I am just a car freak like everybody else. I know when I see these cars that are popular on YouTube, I'm going to be starstruck. I'm going to be like a groupie. To see like Casper in person or the Holy Goat or Jezebel or all these cars that are quite popular in the YouTube community, I'm going to be like, oh, I want my picture taken with you guys. I mean, I am that much of a car geek like everybody else. So for me, what I'm looking forward to at the No Name Nats, I want to meet everybody. I want to see their cars. I want to go underneath the hood and see that Boss 429 Hemi in Casper. I mean, and you know what? That guy, he is so sharp. I mean, when you watch his videos, they're so educational. I mean, it blows me away that, I mean, he's just not out there talking about himself. I mean, he's got some great videos. So I'm really looking forward to meeting everybody. And as far as how I heard about him, it was actually through you, John. And you were like, oh, we'd like to see that. And at first I'm like, I don't even know what the No Name Nationals is. And I'm like, well, what kind of place or what kind of joint is it if they don't even got a name? But after seeing everybody in the community and seeing what these guys are doing in their little garage at home, I mean, I dig that. So I can't wait to go up there and meet everybody and take Mr. Hanney and get some good passes, maybe pull some wheel stands. I'm ready to go. So you can count me in on it. And I think John might have lost his link. So that means the show is all mine. I am here all by myself. So since John's not here, anybody that comes with the Mopar gets a free t-shirt at the No Name Nationals. So, should we take a question? Brian slept at the shop last night and is working all day on the car. So is this going to be a small block car, Dust Devil? I think you're going to put a small block in it. Everyone can see you and hear you. And you know what's funny, guys? Before we went live, I was talking with John, and he said that he's never, ever had anybody lose their feed. And here he is. He's not with us. So the No Name Nationals is now going to be called. There he is.
You know what? It's so funny. My dog tripped over the cord to my router. And it's funny because right before we went on, John Cope is sitting there telling me, okay, I got the link up in case something happens. I said, well, that's pretty durable. We rarely have that problem. And it happens.
Well, when you were gone, John, when you were gone,
think of all the sabotaging that went on while I was gone.
I changed the name to the No Name Nationals to the CRT Nationals, and I told everybody that shows up at the Mopar is getting a free T-shirt through you. So.
All right. Nice. Dr. Cope for the win.
Yeah. But no, I kept it going while you were gone. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I don't think I've ever had that happen. The screen got kind of weird.
Yeah, did I jinx you or what on that?
My dog pulled it right out of the wall. He's really good, but sometimes he's got his moments. So Big Belly Racing says, Mr. Cope, you answering trans questions. Do AMC count as Mopar?
Yes, they do. So fire away.
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
Why wouldn't they?
I mean, if an old Ford truck with a Hemi counts as a Mopar, then yeah.
Heavens Mopars, welcome back. Yeah, indeed. Welcome me back to my channel. Thank you. Dust Devil Garage getting the motorhome 440. Yeah, we got a lot of the no-name 500 guys in here. Like right now on my screen, Big Belly Racing is in. Dust Devil Garage graduated. Heavens Mopars is in. Bubba Ayers is getting close. Bubba Ayers is, what are you, Bubba? About 430 subs, something close?
Wow, that is close.
He's getting close. Big Mike's Empty Barn is 350-ish, somewhere right in there. Not looking at it, but that's.
I love his opening.
What's that?
I love Big Mike's opening.
Oh yeah.
The Barn.
We have some real characters in here that I really enjoy their channels.
You know who is absolutely hilarious, John?
Who's that?
Is the guy with the holy goat.
Oh, Dalton? Oh yeah.
Dalton, that's right.
Yes.
That guy has got a sense of humor. I was laughing my ass off watching all his videos.
He's great. I was watching his video where he bought this Roadrunner. He's called it the Roll Runner because it's been rolled over.
I see it. I was watching part of it.
And he said, it's everything I dreamed of and less. Here's another guy that's interesting character is J-Bo. And these guys, of course, they're participating in the No Name Nationals. J-Bo has the record for the biggest ticket purchase because they're bringing 3 cars and I think half of the town of McGregor, Iowa. So,
well, thank you, J-Bo, for the comment. I'm glad you like watching them.
Yeah, he's cool. J-Bo is like me. He's one of these transmission warriors who just likes doing them, you know.
Excellent.
And anyway,
I encourage guys doing it themselves. You know, grabbing a. Don't be afraid of doing a TorqueFlite.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really.
I tell people do it by sub-assembly, and then it's not as intimidating.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, J-Bo, I'll tell you how I knew that he was super cool. I was watching Bad Tree Productions. This is like a couple of years ago. And he had this giant waffle maker looking thing on his bench. It looked like a waffle iron you see in a hotel when you travel.
Okay.
And I looked at it a little closer, and that thing turned out to be the spring compressor for the high gear drum in a TorqueFlite.
Oh, no kidding.
And he made it to press that spring. I'm like, yeah, really? This guy, anybody that owns that is cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Greg McDonald's got a good TorqueFlite question here. On TorqueFlites of different years, what main shaft and years are interchangeable? I assume he means output shaft.
I would think that he would. And there is a few different years. I'll start with the beginning. The first year for Luna TorqueFlite was 1962. And from 62 to 64 and a half, they were all the same, and they had a ball and trunnion style bolt-on yoke. And then in 64 and a half to 65, they changed it to a slip yoke. And there's an interesting story behind why Chrysler did that. As you all know, Chrysler supplied all the driver's ed fake cars in the little booth that you guys would test drive. And the federal government told Chrysler that you no longer can have push-button cars for driver's ed cars. Both the test vehicles and the vehicles that they would be driving in driver's ed. So that's why Chrysler really quick took the push button and changed it to a cable case. So then from 66 on up was a non-push button, and that was the same all the way till it closed. Now, the front spline, there's 3 changes. So where you put the front planetary on the output shaft, and it's 1962 to 1975, all the front pinions will interchange. Then 76 to 93, and then 93 and up. So there's multiple different output shafts with the bolt-on yoke, the slip yoke, and then there's 3 different inputs of the of that. So, and if you go to my website, not that I'm trying to push anybody there, but I have a thing called Output Shaft Tech, and I have all the output shafts with a picture, and I show you by identification how you could identify which shaft you have. Chrysler just changed a few markings on the shaft, so when the guys were doing the assembly, they know what they were grabbing. So, but yeah, there's 3 different ones.
So my understanding is 1976 is when they changed the angle on the splines.
Right.
So they changed it a little bit, and from what I understand, if you want to run, say, a 48 RE drum or something, or no, if you want to run the steel pinion carrier, you need to use that later style output shaft.
Well, they changed it, John. They changed it twice. So the first set of pitch splines is 62 to 75.
Mm-hmm.
The second is 76 to 93, and then the third is 94 and up. So if you get a 93 and earlier 5-pinion steel planetary, you can use it. But most all of them are 94 and later. However, if you have 5-pinion planetaries or 6-pinion planetaries from a 46, 47, or 48, I have a broach, and it changes it from whatever year that is to a 62 to 75. So
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot of guys out there that, like, say they got a 48 RE, which comes behind a Cummins diesel, and those have 6-pinion steel planetaries front and rear.
Right.
They'll send me the planetary, and for a C note, I'll broach it for them, and they put all that in a 727.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Would never thought that, because you can't do it the other way.
No.
You can do it that way.
Right. And to me, it's a little overkill to put 6-pinion steel planetaries in a car that's only got 500 horsepower.
Right.
But if the guys want it, I don't have a problem doing the broaching for them. And I actually get a lot of them sent to me that have that done.
Well, so that's why this is relevant. So I'm going to upgrade my transmission for my Dart Sport here soon.
Okay.
But the first performance transmission I built was when I was in auto shop at New River Community College, and this would have been 22 years ago. And it was a 999. Okay. Second TorqueFlite I did. First performance TorqueFlite I did. And the way I did this, and I don't know, do you know Kevin Justice had Justice Racing Transmissions in Creston, Iowa?
I've heard of the business, but I don't know him personally.
Yes. Nice guy. He had done a build for one of the magazines way back in the day where they took a Duster and they picked up some time when they traded the 904. They traded out a 727 for a 999. So it reduced the rotating weight inside, and they got the low first and second gear. And the car picked up, I want to say, a 1/10 and a half. Right?
I would agree to that, and sometimes more.
Yeah. So I said, this is a guy that I need to try to get some wisdom from, right? So this was, I don't know, like the year 2000 or something. I would go out at breaks between classes and call this guy with my phone card from the payphone in the hallway where the doors by the store would slam open and shut. And oh man, if I'd thought about it, my notebook is sitting right there. I have a notebook, and I'll do this on video sometime, where I took all these notes of different things he told me, like how to fix the front pump and make it non-lock up, and the right input shaft to use. And I wrote this whole recipe down, right? And we got this thing built over the phone, and it turned out to be really good. Good transmission. It worked. I cut down the pressure plate to get an extra clutch, in the high gear drum, and reinforced the strut, with welded another one on, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that transmission's been a really good one. But what I want to do now is, for I think this is my 13th TorqueFlite, I want to do a more modern one, and I want to use your valve body with a brake. And what I need to do, this car will make an honest 550 horsepower with small block. And I'd like it to have a brake, and I want to do things with a little bit more modern parts. So,
well, the great thing about our valve body, if you get it in reverse pattern or in a trans brake with reverse pattern, you can take the latest Model 4 speed, which was a 46 RE, which some guys call the 518. It's
Mhm.
basically the same thing. But later in years, Chrysler took their 518 and made it computerly controlled. So then they changed the name to a 46 RE. You can take that electronically controlled transmission that came out in 96 all the way to 2005, and as long as you got a small block, put it behind anything, and my valve body will make the transmission stand alone with no computer, no wiring, no kickdown linkage, and you could have the convenience of a modern transmission with overdrive, with lockup. It really, really is a nice piece. So, and if anybody is at the No Name Nationals and they want, when I went to the diesel show when I first came up that valve body, because I originally targeted the diesel crowd with that because everybody was running 48s. It's the same valve body.
Right.
I took my truck and I took guys for rides. So if anybody wants to go for a buzz in Mr. Hanney, not down the track, of course, but through the pits, and I'll show them because I, to this day, have the only 4-speed valve body that shifts in the fourth gear instead of everybody else's valve body still apply the overdrive by activating a solenoid. So I have the only one where it shifts. So if you look at the shifter, Mr. Haney, the Prindle is park, reverse, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're actually shifting it in overdrive. It really is a nice piece. I ain't blowing smoke up, it is so nice. I got one in almost every one of my vehicles. I actually even got one in the plow truck, John.
I'm wanting to explore this whole 518 thing because I've never had an overdrive TorqueFlite before. Well, I cannibalized an A500 to use parts in a 904 once because it was blown up, and I got the deep pan and I got the drums, and I got a lot of good stuff out of it. Big Belly Racing is asking a good question. It's kind of open-ended, but that's a good one. How much horsepower will an A518 handle?
Well, before I stopped building transmissions for everybody, I had a 518 Elephant transmission, and it was rated at 1,000 horsepower. So there are hardened input shafts, hardened intermediate shafts, billet planetaries. It's almost unlimited. I would say the limit to answer his question. I mean, once you get past 1,200 horsepower, and depending on the weight of the vehicle, I would say that's pretty close to pushing its limit. But it all depends on the weight of the vehicle, John. So like you can have 1,000 horsepower in a 3,000 pound car compared to a dually, which is 8,000 pounds.
Oh yeah.
The weight really makes a huge difference.
Okay, so that's a good point. And I think my favorite transmission in all the earth is the 904.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that transmission. It just seems like everything else is one genetic mutation away from perfection in my mind.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about the 904. And the reason I say that is because I have been into other stuff before. And every time I never say, ooh, that was a good idea. I'm like, oh, why didn't they just do that the way that we know works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially working on Ford transmissions. That's always just like a pinball machine of despair. But
when you do your overdrive, then John, you should do the A500.
Yeah,
because it's the 904 version of the overdrive.
Yep.
That's
not a bad way to go at all.
Yeah.
What are the outer limits in your experience of that 904 design? And we can count the 998, 999 in there too, and the 500.
I will first say this about the 904 first, and then I'll answer your question.
Yeah.
I hate doing them. They changed the 727 3 times. They changed the 904 23 times.
Oh.
I mean, you really got to be on your game if you're pulling parts off the shelf to put a 904 together. You really do. I mean, I don't hate it, but you have to have your thinking cap on. I have a super stock car that I did that it's a drag pack Challenger that runs a Gen 3 Hemi. He he always did good with the car, but he did not break he currently owns the speed record and the ET record for his class. I don't know what it is. His name's Dennis Breeden. He's from Washington, Illinois, or Indiana. He did not start breaking records until we put a 904 in the car. And he picked up 2.5 tenths.
Wow.
So
that's a lot.
Yeah. When you get a 904, you have to put shafts in it, inputs and outputs. You have to put billet planetaries in it. I mean, you got to beef it up for it to live, but it'll take just as much as a 727 will.
Yeah, you guys heard it here. All you guys tease me about the 904.
But here again, John, weight really has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
You know, if an ideal race car weight is 3,000 pounds and under.
Yep.
You know, now everybody's got, the new Challenger is almost as much as a pickup truck is what they weigh.
They're heavy. They're heavy.
Yeah.
Well, and when I do something for this van, I have no idea what it weighs, but it weighs, it's like a dumpster full of concrete in the weight department. And I'm going to be towing a car trailer. I'll probably do a 727 based transmission for that. A 518 is what I want to do.
I see. Yeah.
For that reason, the longevity and the weight and all that. But the race car, yeah.
If you're going to use it for towing, I would agree with that, John.
So here is our weekly. This is a weekly thing. Levi's Backyard Performance frets over not getting to 500 subs, and I have no idea why. He's coming right along. He's one of our Roadkill Customs no-name 500 competitors.
Mm-hmm.
We told Levi, he said that he had just pulled his engine from his Laguna, and then he went to Pizza Hut. And we asked him, why did you not pull your engine at Pizza Hut? I don't understand. So, Levi, we need to talk, man. We need to help you with this. But really, for you guys who are not familiar with Levi's Backyard Performance, go over there, check out his channel. I mean, he's got a Laguna turbo stuff going on, Turbo LS, has a ramp truck. Check him out. And if you agree that he's earned your sub, you should sub. He earned mine. I'm subscribed to him. And I think he will get to 500 before September, but he likes to worry about it. It just wouldn't be a live stream without Levi worrying about getting his subs.
Well, Levi, as soon as I get off here with John, I'll hit you up on the sub.
Yeah, check him out. Check him out. Good channel.
300s at least tonight.
That's right. Well, I think you'll get to 300 right now. Levi, report back to us. You guys who've not heard of Levi's Backyard Performance, go check out his channel. Levi, report to us where your sub count is here in a little bit. Now, this is something that, a couple of good questions here. Bear Rose is asking, what are your opinions on the C6 behind a 3,200-pound cruiser with a 390 gear?
C6 is a great transmission. I'm not sure if any of you guys know this, but there was a lawsuit between Ford and Chrysler. Chrysler had the Simpson gear set for their TorqueFlites way before Ford did, because it's basically the same transmission, the way they work. And there was a little bit of a pissing match between Ford and Chrysler. When Ford came out with the C6, they used Chrysler's Simpson gear set in that transmission. But that put aside, the tranny is an excellent tranny. It's very good. It's very strong. You shouldn't have any problems in a 3,200-pound car. The only thing I don't know off the top of my head, and it's probably the best piece or the best improvement you can make to a C6, is the valve body.
Why do they get so hot, though? Those transmissions are known for the heat problem.
I didn't know that.
I mean, that's what a lot of people have problems with them getting hot. And Bear Rose, he and his father used to campaign a monster ride truck, and they ran a C6 in that. And Bear Rose, of course, is on here. He can always chime in on this. But a lot of people use them for serious performance use. Say those things, you got to really work hard to keep them cool. They're more sensitive to getting hot than others.
Well, I'll tell you, John, on any transmission, 90% of the heat comes from the converter. So I'm not sure. It's probably been 10 years since I've been into a C6, but I've done a lot of them. I'd have to look into that and see what the issue is. I
Yeah.
would think if you put a big enough cooler on anything, you could keep it cool.
Well, that's Barrow's solution. Just put a, and I always joke, I'm like, in a C6, what they should do is cool the engine with the transmission cooler and use the radiator for the transmission. Dean Stevenson asks a great question here. What trans are we going to fit Andy Wood up with? A manual 5.8? I told Andy, let's put a 727 in that thing, and I think he's going to wind up with a TH400. He has a C4 right now.
Yeah, that won't live behind that motor.
That C4 is as far as you can take a C4.
And I don't think Andy would need overdrive because it's strictly a race truck, right, John?
Well, he drives it. He and I took that truck out on the interstate to we went through from central North Carolina, where he lives in the Charlotte area. We went through Asheville on our way into Tennessee, ended on the highway, and he was turning, I don't know, 4,000 something, 4,500 on the interstate.
Nope. You know how I found Andy's page?
How's that?
I've been wanting to buy a new Honda Monkey. And he has one. And the title of the video was a 300-pound guy on a brand new monkey. And that's how I found Andy.
I've actually, this is kind of interesting. So I've got to build me a shelf because I've started accumulating engine failures. This is the piston that came out of Andy's. The bottom half of that rod flew out on the trip I'm telling you about. So 5 miles into Tennessee, that rod went through the oil pan. Back here, I have the velocity stacks from Casper.
Nice.
Because now he's running Dominators. And then my Dart Sport is going to run the 660 center squirters from Casper.
On a tunnel ram.
On a tunnel ram.
Because those are tunnel ram carbs, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of Casper souvenirs here, it's just at complete random. Bigfoots and Mopars, since you stopped building transmissions, who would you recommend that uses your parts?
I don't. Well, for one, what I did is when I stopped building transmissions, I came up with the build it yourself kits. And what I've been telling everybody on the phone is to find a local guy that you trust. Because if you go to any of the big names, they're not going to want to use anybody else's parts but their own. But I really encourage you guys to go grab a core and dig into it. It really is not that hard. But if you're afraid of it, you're not savvy around tools, I would try and find a local guy, because if you did have concern or an issue, you'll be able to go back to that person. So let's say you bought a B&M transmission there in California. I don't know where you're at, Bigfoot, but I'm sure it's not, it would be a long distance for you to go to that other person. So I recommend you find someone local that you trust and then have them do the build. That's what I would recommend.
Shopcat Industries asks, are all transmission guys a little crazy? My dad had a buddy, and I brought the converter for my TH350 to him. Ivan says, Corey's your dad? Are they all nuts? Are all transmission guys nutty?
I guess it's from sniffing all that training fluid. I don't know.
The thing I think about transmissions and what makes the difference is that when you raise the hood, nobody says, oh, check out that TorqueFlite.
Right.
Or check out that TH400. Nobody says that. Everybody looks at the engine. The transmission's not a show-off part. So there's a lot fewer guys who have gotten into building transmissions than building engines. That's my theory on it.
Right.
Andrew Nelson asks, what are the parasitic power losses in different automatic transmissions? Specifically, how much drive power does it take to run a TorqueFlite versus a Powerglide versus a TH400? How do those eat up your horsepower at the wheels? It's a good question.
All right, I will do the Powerglide by itself because it's only a 2-speed, so it wouldn't be fair to compare it to a 400 or a TorqueFlite. So a Power Glide, as far as the weight is concerned, spinning weight, it's probably the lightest transmission out there because it only has one drum, one planetary, and there's nothing there. But if you compare the TorqueFlite versus a Turbo 400, and I've had this discussion with a few of my GM guys, a lot of people think the 400 is stronger than a TorqueFlite. And in the aftermarket world, there is a lot more parts available, cases, bell housings, and whatnot, just because that's what everybody runs. But the TorqueFlite actually uses less horsepower to go down the track than a Turbo 400. So let's say they both had steel drums, they both, nothing lightweight on the one and rollerized in the other. If you just took a 400 with a valve body and a TorqueFlite with a valve body, the TorqueFlite always uses less power.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I've done one Power Glide, and I remember it had a Ravigno style planetary. I thought that was kind of wild. Had a different. It wasn't the Simpson style. It was
right.
Kind of different.
The cool thing that I really like about Turbo 400s, though, and I don't know, transmission builders will know this. A Turbo 400 works like a Lenco. Let's look at a TorqueFlite real quick. You got the forward clutch that comes on and going through first, second, third. The low reverse band comes on, then shuts off. Then the front band comes on, then shuts off. Then the front drum comes on. In a Turbo 400, all you do is turn on. Nothing ever shuts off like a Lenco.
Good point.
So the forward clutch is on, you grab second. The intermediate clutch comes on, you grab third. The intermediate clutch still stays on, and then the direct clutch comes on. So that is for power, like big power, like 1,000, 2,000 horsepower. That is a benefit that a TorqueFlite does not have.
I don't know why I've never thought about that before, but that is really interesting.
Yeah.
Everything is just applying to on.
Yeah, I always call it the automatic Lenco, because a Lenco, you pull a lever, you apply a clutch pack. You pull a lever, you apply another clutch pack. So by the time you get down the track, you never shut nothing off. You're just turning things on.
Well, with a Lenco, though, you keep compounding that gear ratio, though.
True, but each time that you grab a lever, you're turning on another clutch pack.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're changing gear ratios, but like the 400, it just clutches turn on as you go down the track. So that is a great built-in benefit that the 400 does have.
These guys they're all clamoring for subs. These guys are all running in the roadkill.
128. He's got some work out for him.
He's got some work. I'm telling you, unfinished project. You need to get on camera. You got good content, good stuff. You just need to get on camera, man. Everybody's pulling for you. Shop Cats at 372. Tall Garage is at 257. Rob's Rod and Streetcars at 137. They're all over the map, but as you guys have already seen, Patrick's 240. As you guys have already seen, your position within that group can change at any time. You can go from 100 to 1,000 overnight with the right video. So never worry about where that is. Just keep working. And of course, we're here to help. We're going to have content creator workshops, and there's a link below this video to a special link from Roadkill Customs. If you want help with your channel and you have fewer than 500 subs and you're a participant in the No Name Nationals, you're one of these No Name 500 guys, there's a link below this video where you can go there for special help from us. And any of us will help you, though. We want to see everybody make it. Jerry Racing's in the house. He runs a Duster, the 727, I believe in that. Right, Ricky? What else do we have here? Yeah, Big Mike Soupty Barnes said Barrows did a video on the overheating problem of the C6.
I'll have to check that out. Thank you for making that.
And Barrows is going to run a cooler with the radiator. That C4 in Andy's truck is the meanest C4 I've ever seen. But I saw it a couple of weeks ago, and it was in about 500 pieces on the floor of his shop. So, who knows what the future of that C4 is. Levi says he walked away to get food, and his girlfriend says that we were making fun of him about getting subs. Well, of course we are. It wouldn't be a live stream without you worrying about subs and us laughing about you worrying about subs. You're going to make it, man. Levi's got the channel that's going to have that one video that takes off. I just know it.
Yeah. I mean, how many Lagunas do you see nowadays?
What's that?
How many Lagunas do you see?
You don't. I think that's really cool. He's got some cool stuff there.
Even in the 80s, it was a rare car to see,
Here's a good character, and he changed his username several times, but the current version of it is Max Wedge Dick Dastardly. So it was Max Wedge Dick Dastardly Rich Rusnick, but he runs a Max Wedge, and I'm hoping he's coming out to the No Name Nationals. I'm hoping so. All pest control guys are here. How you figure? We have a company in our town called All Pest. I haven't seen them on here, though. Yes, Levi, it is hard. It is hard to balance. Let me tell you, I am working on a crazy house renovation project right now that is crushing me. And I'm hoping that after one more week of that I can scale that down to about 3 days a week and have a little bit more time to do the things I need to be doing with you guys. That's the plan. But I figured it would be better to throw the house at it, no pun intended, for the month of April, and then be able to have a little more time going through May and June and July and August than to keep stretching it out and having that hanging over me. So that was the tactic, and it seems like it's working. The wrench says Powerglide has a thin pump. Powerglide has a thin everything, except that planetary is a big suitcase-looking thing. Good to know the 727 does well. Well, I'd agree with that.
It's a good tranny.
Paul has a question. John Cope, do you sell a build kit for a 200 R4 or 4R? R4, 4R, whatever.
I do not, Paul, because my store is Mopar only. So I don't have the only thing I have that's non-Mopar is my friend down the street makes these billet drums for the 700 4L60E. And the only reason why I sell them is because he's a buddy of mine.
Unfinished Project says, I just acquired a 727. What can I look for to determine if it's okay to run? It's a good question. So let's frame it like this. You find one in a junkyard. What are you looking for to see if it's a good core or if you think it's a good runner?
Well, I would drop the pan and take a quick look at how the fluid looks. If it's a little bit on the bright side red, make sure there's not too many debris in the pan. Some is normal. Then if it looks good, I would do a quick band adjustment, put a new filter and fluid in it, put it in, and away you go is what I would do. But if you drop it in and you see some material, then you might want to question what that might be.
If you ask 10 guys what the band adjustment on a 727 is, you will get 10 answers.
Yeah, we sure will.
What's your answer for the band adjustment on a 727?
That could vary depending on the valve body. So I'll give you 2 answers, okay?
Okay.
If you have an automatic shift valve body, and let's say it's just stock, then it's Chrysler's is 72 inch-pounds, back off 2 turns on both bands. Now, this is for the 727, not the 904. If you run a TF-2 kit and, let's say, a reverse manual valve body or a tranny brake.
It's like a Transgo kit?
Yes. Yes, it is. Then I go a little bit looser on both.
Okay.
So you can go 2 1/4 to 2 1/2. Quite honestly, if you're used to your car, John, and it was been at 72 inch-pounds backed off 2 turns for its whole life, and I went underneath there and I went to 2 1/4 turns, you'd never feel it in the seat of your pants.
Yeah, right.
Because the hydraulic pressure would take it over. So the correct answer, Chrysler has you do it on a stock valve body It's 72 inch pounds on the stud. Then you turn it off 2 turns and tighten the nut for both bands.
You know, one thing one thing I'll add, and I don't know what this necessarily means to John Cope, but it means something to me. If I want a transmission that I kind of know what's wrong with it and I get it for a cheap core price, I've gotten a couple of 727s where the guys say, yeah, it was working great, and then it didn't have second gear anymore. And both times I've gotten it, it's bent that strut rod.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I take a new one, I put there, straighten the old one in a vise, clip the ends, weld them together, and that problem's gone forever. That's the redneck way I do it. You have that very elegant strut that you sell.
I see a lot of guys take a 904 strut and weld it to a 727 strut and put it right in.
That would work too.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
The way I learned was taking 2 of those and cut them off in the middle of that hole. I don't even know what that hole was for on those struts, but I cut it in the middle and then just weld them across. What is that hole for?
Chrysler made those with and without those holes. So I couldn't tell you what the hole's for. Maybe a holding fixture when they were making it.
Strange stuff. Buzz says John clearly knows his stuff. Indeed. Yes. Thought he'd make a great guest for that reason.
I'm a dumbass. I don't know nothing.
Well, I'll tell you, for the thumbnail for this video, I had one of his valve bodies just at random. They're just works of art. If I was one of these people that have just crazy money, I would have a valve body just to look at, like just kind of like a wall hanger, just because they're so nice looking. It's almost a shame to bury them in a transmission.
Thanks, John.
Well, I mean, there aren't many car parts I think like that about, but those they're pretty neat. If you haven't seen one of Cope's valve bodies, check them out on his website. They're really something.
Like you said, when you pop the hood, you don't see a Billet valve body.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Levi's Backyard Performance says, Paul and Robert, thank you for your subs, brethren. Levi, you got to report how many subs. How close are you to taking your own checkered flag in Roadkill Customs No Name 500? Out of Order Garage asks, 455 volts bracket car weighs 3,800 pounds. Will a TH350 be okay, or should he use a TH400? Some say the 350 will be quicker. That's a good question.
It probably could, but if I was that Ozen wheel guy with that heavy of a car and I didn't have a transmission yet, I would go straight to the 400.
I would agree with that.
I would go straight to the 400. Only because of the weight of the vehicle. I mean, that is a heavy bracket car.
The guys are greeting Buzz as he comes in. Big Mike's Hoopty Barn asks, and by the way, I read these out because so many of you guys listen to these as audio and not just as video. So that way you guys have it for replay value when you're riding down the road, listen to these. So I try to read these questions as well as put them on the screen. So Mr. Cope, if I were trying to swap a stock 440 and 727 out of a motorhome straight into a car, what benefits and deficits should I expect using, or should I expect versus using a 727 from a car?
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, I subscribe to your channel and I love it, by the way. If you're going to take one out of a motorhome, most of those motorhomes come with a 12-inch tail housing and a bolt-on yoke and a big brake drum. So to put that in a car would be a little difficult. The performance of that, though, is it has everything as a regular 727 HP does have. The 4-pinion planetaries, the 4-disc front drum. So if you can swap the output shaft to a car output shaft, then you'd be golden. But just to take it out of your motorhome and put it straight in a car would be hard. But it is a good tranny. It's no different than having like a Super B or a 6-pack, or not a 6-pack, but a Roadrunner HP trans.
Well, you know, if you're talking about your 51 Coronet, Big Mike, you already have that telescopic drive shaft that's made to bolt to that type of trunnion yoke anyway. Now, I don't know how long that's going to live behind a 440, but that's another question entirely. Max Wedge Dick Dastardly asks, my buddy has a racing 727 built years ago that had 904 parts in it. It only lasted 2 or 3 weekends and needed rebuilt again. Can you tell us a little bit about doing the 904 guts in the 727 case?
There is one guy out there doing that. It's Dave, and the name of that transmission is called a TorqueFlite. You might have heard that terminology. Yes. I think those transmissions were like $8,000, and I've had them open, and believe me, that guy has earned every single penny of that $8,000. The machine work and everything he has to do to put the 904 guts in a 727 case. The reason why he did that is because in stock and super stock, you're only allowed to use a certain transmission in a certain car. So they don't check the insides. So if you got a big block car, they never made a 904 to go behind a big block.
Right.
So they swapped out all the guts. But if you want the benefits, Dick, instead of going through all that trouble and machining and everything to get the guts to work in a 904, I'm sorry, in a 727 case, it'd be way easier just to get an Ultra Ball. So as far as it failing in 2 or 3 weeks, that's going to be a hard one to say. I mean, I know that Dave Smith over there, excellent work. I think he makes, I thought it was somewhere around 30 different gear ratios for the 904.
Wow.
Think about that, John, huh?
I mean, but the machine work involved in that.
It was crazy. I've never attempted to tackle that part of the business. I looked at that. I'm like, he's got to spend who knows how many hours and hours on that trans. You know, it was a nice piece, but if you want to run a 904 behind a big block, get an Ultra Ball.
Well, is he making the gears in house, or I mean, to get those ratios?
A lot of it are straight cuts, and the straight cut gears are easy to make.
Yeah,
and they actually outsource that to a gear cutter. And I believe he just moved from California to Texas. So I don't know who's cutting his gears now.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Jure Racing 408 with a 727 is at 383 subscribers. Track and Travels at 14. He started this week. Well, Two Hacks Garage got his 500 subs in 2 months.
Wow.
So any of you guys can do it.
Great.
Dirty Ben's Garage, lurking in the bushes. He has 100 and some. He just registered here a few days ago. We have a lot of guys from our Roadkill Customs No Name 500 in the house. I'm glad you guys are all here.
Yeah.
Andrew Nelson asks a question. I've read that a Power Glide takes 30 horsepower to drive at 6,000 RPM, and a TH400 takes 44 horsepower at 6,000 RPM. I always wondered what it took on a TorqueFlite.
I don't have that number. I don't. But I've been told by others in the business that if a Power Glide's at 30 and a 400's at 44, I would imagine a TorqueFlite has got to be, if I had to take an educated guess, 39 to 40, maybe 41.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Do you think it's a little better than the TH400?
I don't know.
I would guess that too, for the sheer reason that if you're unapplying things, there's less being drug.
Right.
That would be my guess too, but that's.
I tell you what, when the TorqueFlite came out and B&M came out, the TorqueFlite, you look at pictures of those old funny cars from the late 60s, they all had TorqueFlites in them. So, I mean, what were they making then? Like 1,800 horsepower?
Insane.
And this, John, was before the day of billet drums, billet planetary, and billet output shafts.
Right.
So
these guys were running aluminum pinion carriers. I guess they were steel.
in a TorqueFlite,
Yeah.
they were aluminum.
Yeah, because the Hemi cars
Yep.
were aluminum.
Yep. They were aluminum.
JB's little shop is here. How you doing, JB? He's another one of our guys that's plugging away, and he's going to make it slowly but surely. He's doing it one sub at a time. There's a lot of guys in here from that. I see Muscle City Madness. Ruben is in the house. So, okay, I got a Ruben story for you. Ruben built his first transmission here. I guess it was a couple months ago. And Tall John's Fun Shop and I helped walk him through on a live like this how to do his first transmission.
Nice.
And he did a B&M shift kit in it, right? And shifts really good and firm. Kind of surprised him what a really firm feeling transmission is supposed to feel like. But to my knowledge, he's running and driving, and it's working like it's supposed to. So
excellent.
We'll see how it does on the track.
Excellent.
But see, I'm really glad that Ruben did that, because he hopefully gave other people the confidence to jump in and do their own first transmission and see that it's not as scary when you get in there.
Right. A lot of people are intimidated by it, and I can see how they can. But like you said, John, if you do it in groups, do the planetaries, do the drums, do the valve body, the assembly is actually the easy part.
So everybody's got their system, and I know you have refined your system way more than I have. But typically, I'll set my drums aside, and I do them as an assembly. And then I'll do, the gears and that kind of stuff in the garage. And then take the valve body, put a clean new piece of cardboard down on the kitchen table. And I do that. That's why I do carburetors. Carburetors and valve bodies are the two things I do in the house under really good light where it's clean and calm, right? Because that's the thing I want to keep clean and organized. Then I take it back out the shop. What's that?
Did you say kitchen table?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question, John?
Yes.
Are you married?
I knew that was the question. The of course not.
Okay.
Of course not.
Then you can get away with it then.
Well, I will say our friend Andy Wood, he rebuilt these carburetors behind me on his kitchen table. Oh. And he's been married a long time, but his wife understands that's just part of the deal.
There you go.
No, I'm not married, but I did. My mom asked me one time, quote, "Can you move this intake manifold so I can sit on the couch?" That was said when I was a teenager once.
Oh, that's classic.
and to this day, I think the highest and best use for a bathtub is for degreasing a transmission.
Right.
It's just shaped right and everything, right? Yeah, we have stuff with Cletus in the house. How you doing? He just finished putting an LS in a Volvo wagon.
Whoa.
Looking forward to seeing that at the No Name Nationals. Who else we got lurking in? Yeah, Levi's 197. Okay. See, man, you're over halfway. It's ticking away quickly now, right? So the next thing is, get in that content creator workshop and see what Blake and Buzz and I can help you with if there's anything. And we're gonna get you there. We're gonna help you, man. Your content's gonna get you there, but we want to help. So the wrench says, I like using the 4L60 over the 4L80 because of rotation mass.
I agree.
Yeah.
And actually, the wrench, if you go to my website and look under Billet drums, I have a 4L60E drum there, which is also the same as a 700. And the drum is called a 4L79 because it's taken a 4L60 and get it as close to a 4L80 as you can without hitting it. Huh. It uses the 4L60. The biggest problem with those in 700 R4s is the 3/4 clutches burn up all the time. And it's due to a rigidity problem. And so my friend Mason has got this billet steel cap that spins on the drum. And so that keeps the drum from opening up and having the rigidity problem. Then he went out and used Turbo 350 clutches in the 3/4 pack. So if you really like the 4L60Es, check that drum out. And I got a couple of videos on it too on my page, on my YouTube. So do I have much experience with 4L80s? Oh yeah, I've done quite a few of them in like tow vehicles and nothing hot rod. It basically is the Turbo 400 overdrive. So, and it's a great trans.
Well, Tall Garage is asking, he's telling us, in case anyone wants to know, you can wire up a 4L80E GM transmission for full manual shifting. No PCM required.
That is correct, John.
I didn't know that.
I've seen guys with paddles, shift paddles for their steering wheel that made for the 4L80E. Those were pretty neat.
What are your thoughts on running aluminum drive shafts, just in general?
Mr. Hanney's got one.
There you go.
And it's a and with me in it, it's 4,100 pounds, and I trans brake that thing all day long.
Here's my favorite thing, though. You'll say that, hey, I run one in my truck. It's a heavy vehicle. I run it in my truck, sticky tires. You just gave it the highest and best endorsement you can, that you used it, right?
I will say this, though. I have 1350 joints. I have a billet slip yoke and a billet pinion yoke.
Yep.
So that's one thing that's not going to fail on Hanney.
Well, but see, the good news is that by having those parts, you're actually testing the aluminum drive shaft itself. Because it would be unfair to break a U-joint and somebody says, see, you shouldn't run that aluminum drive shaft. No, it had nothing to do with it. Yes, Big Richard, Mr. Cope's been in the house. Where have you been? Mr. Cope's been in the house for an hour, man. I know you're out in California where you guys can't tell time and you're on, I don't know, what is it there, 6 o'clock or something. The rest of the world knows it's 8 or 9, but yeah, glad you're here. That's a cool channel, Big Richard's World. Big Richard's a cool guy. He has a Duster drag car. He has a white Aspen station wagon called Betty White.
Really? I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Big Richard's World. He's got some neat stuff, and he's a neat guy.
I'll have to check that out.
He's a guy. He's one of these guys that should have a whole bunch of subs. People just have to find who he is. He needs to make a few more videos. Right. He's another one of these rock stars waiting to happen. And just
if he gets the subs, is he going? Is he coming all the way from Cali?
Oh, yeah. He's going to get his subs. He's going to get his subs. He's a member of the community. We're not leaving him behind, but check him out.
I sure will.
Just Mopar Joe is here. He's going to rewatch this one. You should, Joe. Looking forward to meeting you at the No Name Nationals, Mr. Cope. He's got family going on, but he wanted to stop in to say hi. Well, glad you could stop in, Joe.
I can't wait to hang out with you guys.
Bad Tree Blake is here also. His old man J-Bo has been here for a while, but Blake Bad Tree Productions is here. Blake, by the way, would that first Sunday in May, this first Sunday in May, would that work for you to do another content creator workshop? Might as well ask you on here. You're on here, right? Yeah, Cletus says I'm not a Mopar guy, but I'm ready for the No Name Nationals. You don't have to be a Mopar guy. You can be a Saab guy. You know, there's probably 13 Saab enthusiasts on the face of the earth, and they are welcome at the No Name Nationals. Bubba's got to run. Yep. He wants to see you next Friday. Yep, we'll be here. Next Friday, I'm going to have Dallas Brown. I'm hoping to be live from Tennessee with Dallas, but I'll be there. But either way, we're going to have a live on Friday. Buzz Roadkill Customs says all the bigs are showing up now. Oh, yeah, of course. They come rolling in fashionably late, but I'm glad to have them here. Well, you can't say all of them. You're here. You've been here since the beginning. Ed's Machine is here. I knew Two Hacks was hanging around somewhere. Two Hacks Jeff there.
Hydro Bob. If it's Hydro Bob, he's from Chicago.
Yeah.
He's passed, but
yeah. Max Wedge, Dick Dastardly says they last longer now than when you said the name and price. I put one in year before last. He's got a deal from 6,500 for somebody. What are we talking about?
About the TorqueFlite.
Okay, I was going to say, surely we're not talking about an aluminum drive shaft still. Yeah, Ed's Machine has been doing some machine work for some of these channels, and he's got some pretty cool stuff. I'm going to check out some more of his stuff. So Heavens Mopar says, I picked up a 727 that was rebuilt years ago, but never had any fluid put in it. Are there any precautions or things to do, or just fill it up and send it?
I'd fill it up and send it,
Okay.
As long as nothing looks dry rotted. Take a flashlight and look at each end to make sure there's no critters in there, and pour some fluid in it and let it rip.
And you'll find out what kind of job they did on it, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, really. So, some guys are afraid of electrical and others are terrified of automatic transmission. I find that, but I don't think automatics are that scary. I mean, yeah, there's some I don't like to do. I did one for a Hyundai one time, and it was a suitcase style. And the shafts would fit in one half the case, and then you bolted the other half of the case on top of it, and they were blind. And the way you checked your in play, you had shims that went behind the races for the tapered roller bearings, and you put a piece of solder in there and then torque the case together and give them a spin, and then take the case halves apart, and you'd mic the solder.
Wow.
And that's what would tell you what shims. I don't ever want to work on anything like that again, but I mean, I wouldn't say be terrified of it. Just be glad that we're in this first world where we don't have to do stuff like that.
Yep.
Like, I mean, John Cope, you're working on what you want to work on now, right?
For the most part. I mean, I went all Mopar a long time ago, and it's kind of funny because everybody told me that they're like, you're crazy to do that. And the business just took off when I did that.
Yeah, but I'm in total agreement with you on that. I mean, I think that it's good to have one thing that you're really good at and have as much work as you want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to be.
I'll tell you, the Mopar guys and the Ford guys probably have more brand loyalty than, not picking on GM or nothing, but I've found that the Mopar guys and the Ford guys really are brand loyal.
Yeah, I would say that's true. Yep. The Wrench says been married 23 years and still uses the dishwasher to clean a transmission housing. I had a 904 TorqueFlite on my dinner table Thanksgiving before last. Unwashed, right out of the leaf pile. Buzz says, one can judge the quality of a spouse over the use of a kitchen table.
Yeah, really.
Mopar Man 1978 says, I'll just call John Cope and bypass the middleman. You can feel free to just make stuff up, blow stuff up for your amusement on here too, No one's holding you to what you tell them. But no, I will say it is great to have you on here because there's a lot of good things that we get to learn about. I got one I'm curious about. I have seen the reverse rotation springs for the high gear drum on the 904.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that versus going to the 727 style springs?
Well, it's funny that you say that, John. I make a multi-spring pack, and they almost look like power glide springs that stand straight up and down in a circle. There's 24 of them with a billet top and a billet bottom. It's $99. It's a great fix. You put it in there, but the 727 springs will not fit in a 904 no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So
well, that's a great segue to this.
Yeah.
So, okay, I've compressed, the spring retainers with C-clamps, but it's not for everyone. I think Ruben was actually using a tool, but he had it slip off and got a face full of springs doing the drum on his. And it was part of the experience. No one got hurt, but it was, it was interesting.
You ain't a real training guy till a snap ring or a spring popped in your head.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Big Richard's World says you're a master builder. And and he says the family story and the history of the shop. That's a great place to ask about that. And one thing that I really like about your videos is you mention, the family business, and you like to pay tribute to the history of your business.
Yep.
Was it Transmatic? Was that what it
Yep.
was way back in the day?
Yes.
Yeah. And you built the tribute truck and stuff?
Yep, and I'm almost done with it. I got my start working for my father, had a transmission shop, and he called it Transmatic. Was on the south side of Chicago, and he did a really good job. Took a lot of pride in his work, and a lot what I do and how I treat customers and what I learned come from the old man. So now my family, my son, my wife, and my daughter, all play a big part of the store. Yeah. So,
That's really cool. And I looked
yeah.
too at your video with your 68 Coronet RT, and you've had that since 1988. I
Yeah. Man,
believe.
you got a great memory, John.
I remember some of these odd things sometimes, but it's neat how you like these pieces of history. You like to preserve them, and,
Yeah.
and we kind of have that in common. Like this Dart Sport that I have is a car that I remember being campaigned when I was a kid, and so years later I found it. And I want to put it back to the way it ran
Yeah.
in the 80s. So yes, I know there are more modern ways of doing things, but I want to run the little electric water pump drive, and I want to run
Mhm.
your Krager SS's and the cast intake and all that stuff, because that's the way it looked in the day. And I like these things to take you back in time when you see them.
Well, Mr. Hanney has got a little bit of history to it, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I'll share it with everybody.
Sure.
My dad had a 1966 Ford tow truck with the exact same lights as Mr. Hanney has. So you can say it was
Ah,
Hanney number one. And that was the vehicle that I learned how to drive in. So when I bought my Ford 66 Ford, it was somewhat of a spin-off or a tribute of Dad's tow truck. That's why I got those goofy lights on the top.
I wondered what the story on the lights was.
Yeah,
I knew there was a significance, though.
yeah. I actually was going to put a fake boom on it, and I wanted to go after farm truck
Yeah.
and have a fast. I mean, what are those guys? It's the sleeper effect. So it was either an ice cream truck or a postal worker truck or a tow truck. And I thought it'd be so cool to make a tow truck run, with a Hemi in it. I just never got around to putting the boom and the push bumper on it. So, but that's what my intent was.
We have another tech question. I know helix gears
Sure.
are quiet, but has thrust loading been an issue where straight cut uh, are noisy without thrust issues? So I guess he's asking, do you have any problems with the thrust or anything with the straight cut gears?
Not with straight cut.
You shouldn't.
There's zero.
Yeah.
There's zero. It's the helical cut that sometimes want to thrust
Right.
everything sideways.
Has anyone tried using herringbone or chevron pattern gears in their planetaries? Boy, that's pretty wild. That would be a wild piece of machining, but have you
Yeah.
ever seen anything like that?
I have not.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never seen. I don't even think Rube Goldberg could come up with a chevron gear. For people who don't know what that is, a chevron has the gear teeth would look like the tires on an agricultural vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
so they would control thrust. But I would imagine it would be a machine work nightmare. That's
Yeah.
just what I envision, and it probably couldn't tolerate the smallest bit of grit. I would think. I don't know that, but. Right on, Bear Rose. Well, Bear Rose is always right on. We know that. Bear Rose is a cool guy. Dust Devil says he has a buzz from paint fumes. Are you painting? What are you painting, Brian? Are you painting the car? Are you painting parts? We've got to know. Big Richard's World says he's bought a lot of parts from Mr. Coat. He's got fast stuff. I believe that.
Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you very much.
Mostly Old Parts and Rust Patrick asks, does anyone make a billet front yoke for a 904 with a 1350 joint?
I believe either Mosier or Strange does.
I need to know that for me. So I'm glad to know that.
Yep.
Dust Devil Garage says you don't have to be a Mopar guy, but it sure helps. Well, it does in my opinion too. You don't have to catch up on the engineering. You should know that a guy with the username Raining Slant 6 with a chance of cannonballs would have a very esoteric way of speaking in mind. Yeah, I think that's a great question.
I hope he doesn't use that for his email address.
Especially with the Raining REIN. I get a kick out of that username. I like usernames like that when you gotta, they're encrypted. You gotta figure them out. Dirty Ben's Garage asks, doing a small block to a big block case swap to mate a 440 in the A100. Been a few years since I built the 727. Any pointers off the top of your head that I don't want to overlook? So I guess he's taking the guts out of a small block. Yeah, he's taking the guts out of a small block 727 and putting in a big block 727. Okay. Any suggestions there?
Yeah, sell me that A100. I was for so long. And our neighbor has one just two doors down, and they used it just to push dragsters back in the day. It was a slant 6 one with Craigers on it. It says Moon Bay Dragway on the door. It had like 2,000 or 3,000 miles on it. It was something crazy.
Oh, wow.
But as far as pointers are concerned, A100s have a very unique transmission. So if you're going to go from a small block to a big block in an A100, you got to use the output shaft and the housing. But as far as that, the only thing you really got to do is stay organized when you're doing the disassembly on the two units, because the only thing you're changing is the case. And if the transmissions are the same year, everything inside is interchangeable.
What is the difference between the output shaft and the extension housing?
A100 has a transmount on the top and it hangs down.
Huh. Never knew that. Never worked on it.
Yeah, it does.
Wow.
And they still used cable cases like the push button cases.
Huh.
The whole run of an A100 because they had that shifter on the dash.
Never knew that.
Yeah.
It makes sense now that you say it. I've never worked on one. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Hey, I see Drag Boss is in the house. There you go.
Oh, look at that wheel stand.
You need to get you a piece of that job. So Tim there has a mid 9-second Cleveland powered Cougar that I'm hoping he's going to bring to the No Name Nationals. So yeah, Drag Boss, come get some action at this event. Man, I think there's two people that will challenge you both in ET and in wheel stand.
Yeah.
Dizzy Izzy, we're doing great. I'm glad you're here.
Yep. Love the CUDA.
And Ed's machine is here, and Bad Tree's got the link popped up to Ed's machine. Yeah, I need to do something with Ed. He's supporting a lot of our channels here. I'd like to work with him a little bit. Drag Boss says he's built his own transmissions for the last 20 years. That's really cool. Drag Boss is a cool guy.
Send me your application. We'll put you to work.
That's right. So here's a guy I'm glad isn't here. Mike Ivan. I call him the torque converter whisperer. He builds torque converters for a living.
Really?
So come time, I'm going to have Cope valve body in my 999 and an Ivan torque converter. That's the plan. Right. Yeah, so Blake here is just taking a victory lap, a gratuitous victory lap. Am I the only one that really likes the No Name logo? That was a collaboration between him and Ben Schultz of Schultz Sign. So they came up with that really cool No Name Nationals logo there, and we've adopted that. And then Yes,
That
and
it right there, John?
you can see the No Name 500 logo uses the No Name from No Name Nationals.
Nice.
So that's become our official logo. So Dizzy is talking about okay to hang my banner on my car. The Roadkill Customs No Name 500 Buzz there has sent out banners to some of these No Name 500 participants, and we're going to start seeing their banners pop up. So more on that. We'll still see them in videos popping up everywhere. It's going to be really cool. Big Mike Soupy Barnes says, I'm only afraid of one thing, an empty dinner plate. I hear that. All right, let me catch up in these comments a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to hold them, and we have a bunch more. These are the perils of having a lively chat.
There was one thing while you're reading, John. I would like to settle a urban legend in the Chrysler world.
Sure, go for
Have
it.
you ever heard people on the internet talk about they just bought this killer motorhome transmission and it had a low gear set in it?
What would that have been?
They never made it.
I've never heard. I would have heard of that.
I could not tell you how many times guys are like, hey, I'm buying this motorhome. It's got a 727, and a lot of times they'll say a straight cut low gear set.
Now, there was an aftermarket low gear set for 727, I think I've seen, but never anything.
Mopar Performance was the first one to make it for the super stock cars. Yeah. But then other people have made it since. But Chrysler never put that in a 727. So that's an urban legend. The Bigfoot of the transmission world.
Here's an interesting comment. The Wrench says, I'm on the fence about removing springs in the apply pistons. One, it can apply faster and clamp tighter, but disengagement is slower and messes with the timing. What are your thoughts? I removed 3 or 4 in the 46.
You must be talking about a 46 RE.
That's what I'm thinking.
And if it's in the direct drum, you just shot yourself in the foot.
That's yeah.
Those springs are there for shift timing.
Yeah.
So when guys leave the springs out, they probably might shift harder, but you have to shut second gear off as close to turning third gear on as you can. By removing the springs, you actually turn third gear on before second shuts off all the way. That is called band overlap. So I actually encourage all my guys to run more springs, not less.
You know, and that kind of makes me think about what we were talking about earlier. This would be a problem that you would never have with a TH400.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Because there is no overlap, because all you do is turn things on as you go down the track. You're exactly right.
Big Belly Racing has a comment that only a channel named Big Belly Racing would come up with, but I really like it. Have you ever had a TorqueFlite blow up and come through the floor?
Yes.
I fortunately have
tell you a little story.
Yeah, please do.
In 1988, I bought my Coronet. I paid $500 for it, and I was out street racing. And I had a cheetah valve body, which does not have low band apply. And this was before billet drums. And I had a transmission explode in the Coronet. It came through the floor. It cut the fuel lines. The car started on fire. It broke my foot in 3 spots and cut off 2 of my toes. Ooh. I got hurt bad. I was in the hospital. Luckily, they sewed my toes back on, and everything wiggles down there and works just fine. And to this day, of all the thousands of transmissions I built, the only one that ever blew up was that one that I built. It is a very, very dangerous thing, and it could kill you. So, luckily, it happened to me and to no one else. But after that, I really got serious about making transmissions safe. Before, I mean, I was just some punk street racer. I mean, I don't remember how old I was. I was in my 20s when that happened. And the more you have guys out there making serious power, it's easier to break that sprag. So there's 4 ways to protect yourself. Make sure you have some type of a bolt-in sprag or a drag sprag. Make sure you always have a billet steel drum. Make sure your valve body has low band apply and some kind of safety device. If you follow those 4 things, you'll never have to worry about a transmission exploding on its own like that. But if you're ever at my shop, John, you can still see the damages in the floor and in the cowl where the transmission came up through the floor. It collapsed the steering column to where I couldn't turn the wheel. And chunks of fluid just covered the whole window. Wow. It was bad. I will send you pictures in the next 48.
Oh yeah, please do. Please do. That's safety is so important.
Yeah.
And it's funny how we learn from our mishaps. But I mean, like I'm lucky to even, I don't know if you can see these. I'm lucky to even have these 2 fingers. If you can see that scar that runs up my middle finger. I got my hand crushed behind a U-Haul one time. And it was bad, and I had to have my hands sewed back together and a pin put in it and all this stuff. But you know what? You know what I don't do now? I don't take chances with where I put my hands. Like I never put them in dangerous places when I work. I never get careless with saw blades or anything because I know how close I was to losing my fingers. And so in our mind, we get really safety conscious when something like that happens.
Yeah.
And you have good points. So people are familiar with the bolt-in sprag. They're familiar with the billet drum. When you said low band apply, I know what that means. Tell these guys what you mean by that in the power flow. The low band apply.
Low band apply is a term that mentions having the low reverse band on and either a 904 or 727. The low reverse band goes around the low reverse drum. The low reverse drum goes in the sprag. So when you have valve bodies that do not have the low band apply, the only thing that's doing the holding in the first gear is just the sprag by itself.
Right.
By adding the low band apply, by turning the band on, you now have the band and the sprag doing the holding. So that makes the sprag stronger because it's not doing all the work. So, and here's a way for you guys. If let's say you got a reverse manual valve body and you're like, do I have low band apply or not? I don't know. Here's a way how you can test drive your car to find out if you do or if you don't have low band apply. You simply put the car in first gear and go up to about 30 miles an hour and then let off the throttle. If your idle goes, or if your engine RPM goes to idle and the car just coasts, then there is no low band apply in that valve body. But if you do the same thing in first gear and you drive with a low band apply, you'll drive up to 30 miles an hour, let off the throttle, and the car will nose down. You'll hear it go, oh. Yeah. It'll drag the motor down, slow the car down. That has low band apply. And it's also good for drag racers. Every time you make a pass, if you think maybe you might have hurt something, you can test the low band apply after every pass. Go around, get your ticket in the ticket booth, just go up to 20 miles an hour, let off. If it gears down, low band apply is working, get back in line.
That's nice. I hadn't thought about doing that. But that's pretty slick.
Yeah.
Levi's at 303. Well, good. Levi got more subs from this. He will have some measure of peace tonight.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yes, this is a wonderful community, Levi. Second to none. And Battery Productions mentioned something good too. Become a member of the AHRA today. I'm very fortunate to have AHRA sanctioning the No Name Nationals. Dallas was on board with it. I would expect I would not have had as good a reception from the NHRA or IHRA, but you know what? I didn't ask them. I asked the sanctioning body for the rest of us. Oh, this is a comment, sort of, but I think it's a good question. So Heavens Mopars is asking what transmission fluid. Bad Tree just says type F. Why don't you just tell us in general what your thoughts are on transmission fluids in general?
Here's that one of those questions. If you ask 10 different guys, you will get 10 different answers.
You bet.
But since you asked me, I'll give you
Yes.
my 2 cents and what I
Yes.
like. I'm a Dextron 2 guy.
Me too.
The Type F, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a thinner fluid, so it goes through the passages faster. But I like the Dextron 2 because it clings better to washers and bushings and whatnot, where the Type F doesn't. I've seen some Type F transmission fluid in TorqueFlites, and I look at the washers and they look a little beat up or a little scarred more. And you can always tell, not only that, Type F stinks.
That's a good reason in itself.
Sometimes Type F has got a nasty smell to it.
So Patrick's asking, I really needed to know that CRT 999 trans brake launch on 20 plus PSI boost with drag radials. We'll find the weak link. Yep.
If it's a 999, the weak link with that setup would be the output shaft.
I'm anxious to see what Patrick breaks because he's just ahead of me on power.
Yeah.
Dust Devil's asking, are the small block 727s getting harder to find because they fit behind the modern Hemis?
Not because of that reason, but anything old is getting hard to find. So, but yeah, guys are out there. But more guys I see are going to the 46 RE or the 518 than the 727. Because if you're going to grab a transmission, why not grab one that has overdrive?
Well, you know, the only reason not, in my mind, I'm a fan of simplicity. So if I have a vehicle that doesn't need overdrive, I don't want it.
Right.
But to me, every single part that gets added to my vehicle has to have a return. Right? I mean, so I don't like any superfluous anything. I don't even like OBD2 or anything like that. So, but if I have an application that needs overdrive, I want overdrive. But I want the simplest overdrive.
Yep.
It's just, you know.
I mean, everything old is getting hard to find. You know.
In general, yeah.
And I'll have times where I come across a lot of big blocks and I'm low on 904s. Then I get a batch of 904s that I'm low on big blocks. I mean, there's no way to figure out which one is going to be the easy one to get. I just took apart a 727 in a motorhome.
Yeah, he did. He swapped out his output shaft and extension housing.
Good.
Heavens Mopar is asking what torque converter would be good for street strip. Well, that's an open-ended question. It's a 70 Duster with a semi-stock 440-75 model. So he has a 70 Duster with a mild 440 and wants to cruise around and get a decent launch. What kind of torque converter recommendation might you have for Scott there?
A lot of it has to do with cam and gear. Those two things make a big deal on what it is. So let's just say it got a mildly, a little bit step up from stock cam and like a 355 or 391 gear. I would go with an 11-inch 28 to 3200. And as far as a brand is concerned, there's a lot of good converter companies out there. I've been dealing with PTC in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, because they are Mopar guys. Anybody knows Kenny Ford? He's a diehard Mopar guy. He's got his own car collection himself. He takes great pride in what he does, and he's so good to do business with. I think it's been almost 25 years now we've been doing exclusively PTC converters. Great people to do business with.
I like getting recommendations from people who use their stuff hard.
Yeah.
You know, I would rather take advice from people who break stuff than people who make stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because you guys know what the weak link is, the more you've pushed stuff to break it. Just Destroyer 1320's in the house, man. Glad to see you here. Bad Tree's advocating getting a scatter shield so you don't lose a leg. I think that's sound advice.
Yes, it is.
I am all for things like that.
I would like to add to something to that, though.
Sure.
Between the carbon fiber shields and the aluminum shields and trans blankets, you're best protected from a blanket. If you have a billet steel drum in the transmission, it's not going to explode. but there are rules and regulations that you have to run a shield. But let's say you have a stock drum and you're going to get a shield for protection. The only thing that really will protect you will be a blanket. A shield, it'll go through the shield, and the aluminum or carbon fiber are sketchy. Even though they're SFI approved, a lot of people have seen that orange CUDA with the big hole in the door, and you look inside and you can see the carbon fiber shield where that billet drum came through the case, through the floor, through the shield, and out the door. So a blanket, you will always have the best coverage as far as keeping it explosion contained.
The most exploded transmission I've ever seen was in the mid-90s, and it was in a 69 Roadrunner big block car, and I cannot remember the name of that car now for whatever reason. But it made a pile of power, and this 727 was grenaded so bad, it looked like somebody took half of a case and just took a big shovel full of parts and dumped it in the case. It was that bad.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, do you still have your feet? And he had, I think it was some, I don't know what kind of shield he had on it, but he did. But man, those things can really blow up. But says he takes good care of the 9.5 fingers he has left. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm lucky. I am lucky to have all 10, but I am by luck. Let's see. Let me skip down here ahead. It's hard sometimes to dwell on a comment because we got a lot of comments in here. So,
how many people in the house, John?
We have 81 watching right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got a little bit of a debate here. The Wrench says Allison fluid. Bear Rose is saying Type F for me, but he's also a Ford guy, bear in mind. Now, Rabid Transit Garage is asking something I know nothing about. What's your opinion on a 52RH? I've never even heard of that.
Neither have I.
So I know
what that means is the 5 is the 5-speed.
Yep.
The 2 is the torque level. The R is rear-wheel drive, and the H is hydraulic. That transmission does not exist.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I think he means 42RH. He hit the wrong button.
Yeah, it has to be because if there was a 5-speed non-electronic rear-wheel drive Chrysler transmission, I would have heard of it.
I think he means 42RH. So to answer his question, that's the 904 version overdrive. It would be better to get the 44 than the 42 because that second number is the torque level.
So what is the difference between a 42 and a 44? We're talking about the A500, right?
Yes.
So what would be the torque difference what parts differences would you get between those two?
I believe that the 42 has 3 clutches and the 44 has 5.
I know that I got an A500 from an 89 or 90 D150, and it had a 5-clutch front drum and a 4-clutch forward rear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
normal. I didn't know that. What's that?
Which is normal.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, all of the 44s have that.
Once you've taken Jason Fitch says, once you've taken a bath in Type F, you develop a hate for it. I remember one time the first time my dad ever changed a transmission pan on one of these modern cars where they just, they RTV it onto the case at the factory. There's no gasket.
Yeah.
He had all the bolts out of it. All of the bolts, trying to get this pan off. And I walked up right as he had them all out, and I was going to say, hey, they glue those on now. And right about that time, it popped free, and the entire pan contents covered him in the garage floor. I've had that happen. We've all been there. It's rough. And you smell like it. 3 showers later, you still smell like that fluid. Yeah. Bad Tree's saying like graphite almost on the bushings and whatnot with Type F. He sees that frequently. Yeah, that black dust type stuff.
Yep.
Most of the old parts has the works. He has the Coke billet valve body, the dump valves, the works.
Wow.
Yeah, the dump valves.
Can I ask him how much more of a stall he got out of the dump valves?
That's a great
If he
question. I'd love to
replies.
know. Oh, speaking of that too, while we're looking for Patrick here to answer that. So you started doing the Tesla valve thing. It's the neatest thing I saw in one of your videos, the Tesla valve,
Mm-hmm.
where you slow down that fluid flow one way so that downshift 2 to 1 doesn't, throw your neck out of joint.
Yep.
That's pretty neat. That was really slick. I like that a lot.
It was, and I'll have to blow my horn on this one, pat myself in the back. I I'm a I love history. I love American history. I love mechanical history. And I came across a video seeing Nikola Tesla do this. And he originally used that for an earthquake machine. And I got to thinking, man, that'd be cool to put that in a transmission. And so I did a lot of research and I could not find anybody around the world at all who ever used a Tesla valve in a transmission. And so I thought, well, where can I make it work? And I'm like, how about the low band apply throwing you through the windshield? So I put a Tesla valve in, I put it in Mr. Hanney, tested it, and it worked. And then so starting in 2022, all my billet valve bodies have the Tesla valve built right into it.
And for those of you guys who aren't familiar with the Tesla valve, it's a valve with no moving parts.
Mm-hmm.
This is all a set of machine work that controls the speed of fluid flow.
Yep.
Watch the video. I got a link to Cope's YouTube channel below this video. So after this live, look for that video. It's really neat.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I really
cool.
watched that with fascination. I thought that was pretty cool.
Nikola Tesla had a patent on that for a while. I'm not breaking no patent laws because that patent is far as
yeah. John Mounts is asking, I would do a 518, but I have a big block. You can.
Yes.
Your swap kit is what, $795?
That is for the adapter.
That
allows you to put a small block behind a big block, or you can do the Ultra Bell. There's 2 different ways you can put a 518 46H or E behind a big block.
Mopar Man 1978 says, I run Type F in my modified 727 with a shift kit and Kevlar bands. Should I switch back to the fluid Mr. Cope suggests? I think he means Dextron.
Yeah. No, you shouldn't, because it's just was a preference of mine. I prefer one over the other, but I would say half my customers out there use Type F on everything. The one Type F that I do like and that I do sell is the B&M Trick Shift. It's that blue. It's a real fancy Type F that doesn't stink. So that's one fluid that I really like. So no, don't change it. If it's working, leave it alone, And if he wants to improve the car or something, let me take it for a spin at the No Name Nationals.
For whatever it's worth, so when I built my first transmission, I remember Kevin Justice saying he runs Dextron. He said it's a better fluid. Mm-hmm. He had put it in beakers and boiled it and did his own little laboratory testing on Type F, and different kinds of fluid. And he says that Dextron 2 is the best automatic transmission fluid there is, in his opinion. And he gets that based off the temperatures they boil at and all this stuff. He said when they went to 3 and 4, there's other additives kind of hurt that a little bit. They would make, electronic solenoid shift quieter and all that stuff, but it didn't do anything good for the fluid. So that was his opinion. And all I can say is I have always run Dextron 2 and never had a problem from it. So to me, I would have to see a reason to change. Right. Now, that's not to say that I couldn't have had great experience with Type F. I just never went that road.
When I worked for my dad at Transmatic, he put Dextron 2 in everything. Fords, Mercury's, everything. Yeah. So.
Rabbit Transit Garage is asking, how about what's your opinion of the durability of a 518? I have one behind a fairly stout 340, wants a higher stall converter, and has 391 gears.
It's a great transmission. I have one in Mr. Hanney, and I expect it tomorrow I'm actually taking it to the track to run 1150 in a 4,100-pound truck. Like I said earlier in this video, I made 518s for Elephant motors, which were rated at 1,000. Now that transmission had some really exotic parts in it, but let's say you're making 500 horsepower. I mean, a stock 518 with maybe a shift kit and some good clutches will work great and be very, very reliable.
Are there any weak links to a 518? Are there any things that, so let's say you think about this as a 727 that adds a fourth gear. Are there any reliability things that come up as a result of adding that overdrive?
No, but Chrysler definitely had their issues. I was a Dodge mechanic at the time when the transmission came out, and there were interference issues or machining issues with the front drum, and they had lip seal problems. That's why you'll read a lot of times that 518s won't go in a third gear, and they had a lot of their issues. But if you freshen up a transmission and you update the overdrive snap ring and you put bushings and everything and new washers and add some kind of a Transco shift kit, if it be the light duty one or the TF-2, it is a great transmission. There's nothing that you have to worry about that's going to leave you on the side of the road. Really
let me ask you, while we're at that, you say a Transgo is your go-to shift kit. Why is that? What is your thing about Transgo, and what do you think about them versus other shift kits like a B&M?
I tell you, for the guy who does it out of his garage at home, I think that the Transco kits are the easiest to understand because, you know, a training guy can do a valve body blindfolded. But if that's your first or second one, or you're a little skittish about it, the pictures and the descriptions and their instructions, along with the end result, I found is the best. I belong to a Facebook page called the Transmission Brotherhood, and it is the preferred shift kit for all transmissions, not just TorqueFlites.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah. I'm not saying that superior or anything else is inferior. It's just, I think if for a guy doing it at his home, the Transco kit is the most user-friendly too, with the best results out of it.
Okay. Paul asks, are there any transmission-specific additives that are worth using, and for what specific purpose? Any additives you like?
There's only one one additive I use, and God, I can't remember the name of it. I got it at the shop. It's for sticky governors. Oh, it comes in a red bottle. I can't remember the name of it. I'm so bad at that.
Is it a kind of oil or an additive?
It's an additive. It's about a pint. Comes in a red bottle. Lube Guard. It's called Lube Guard, and you can get it at any AutoZone. Like a lot of times 904s, sometimes in like 404 transmissions, when you come to a stop, won't downshift.
Yes.
The governor sticks. I've actually poured that additive in there and fixed it. Now, all the other additives for fixing leaks and fixing slips, I do not recommend you use that for nothing.
Have you seen the seals swell really bad with some of that stuff? I've seen some of them swell so bad, I would have thought they were for a different application.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what scares me to death about all that stop leak stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend none of that.
I will say I had a torque converter shuttle really bad one time, and Valvoline Max Life fluid fixed that. It never came back.
It chattered going into lockup?
The torque converter was chattered really bad, and changed to fluid with Max Life. Never did it again.
If you would have used the ATF plus 3 or 4, it would have done that too. It would have fixed that. Yeah.
Well, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Bad Tree says they run a cope valve body and the crew cab dart. That's the proper name for a 4-door dart, is a crew cab dart. Love it. That's a cool car too. You need to see that one. Yeah. It's green, really nice. It's not ratty like most of the stuff that me and my friends have. It's a really nice granny car, but it's got a lot of power.
All right, I got a question for you, John. Since we're talking about funny names,
sure.
Tell me who the big three is.
The big three?
Yep. In the automotive world.
Well, you're probably talking about the traditional Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler.
No.
No.
Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge.
Okay, fair enough. So we're talking about the frat sog here, right?
The big three in my world is Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge.
Well, I can go with that. Dust Devil Garage says, I'm a machinist and still has all of my fingers. Well, that's good, because I knew a machinist who did not. He was running a hole punch, and yeah, he wound up with 7. Pole Barn Garage, Dalton is here. Good to see you. We were watching some of your your roll runner video. Quite a car.
I actually took Dalton's video of the Holy Dart, and I used the different Holy. I used the Blessed Holy when I type it in. I got these Pontiac guys here in Cedar Lake, Indiana, and I texted them after watching a couple of the videos. I'm like, hey, man, you ever see the Holy Goat? They're like, huh, what? I'm like, I sent them both the video, and they absolutely loved it.
So, mostly old parts here. Dump valves are currently off the transmission, but they're going back on for the No Name Nationals.
Great.
Okay, that's cool.
Well, wait a minute. That, what's his real name?
Patrick.
That's right. Okay, I know who Patrick is.
Yes.
Patrick Abbott.
He's not the guy who bought your prototypes, is he?
I don't think so.
You sold your prototypes, didn't you?
Prototypes? What do you mean?
Didn't you make a prototype dump valve, and I think you said that they worked, so you sold them and you started producing them?
No, he has the older version dump valves.
Okay.
Him and his wife are great people. They are. They came to the shop, and they're really, really great people.
He's really cool. He's in some of our lives. Sometimes we see him hanging around the community. I'm looking forward to meeting him. Dalton Pole Barn Garage says, transmissions are magical things of wonder. Someday I'll try one. What do you mean someday? you and I are going to pull an engine in a Pizza Hut parking lot. I don't know why you're afraid of a transmission. I'm more afraid of Karen coming out and denying us a stuffed crust because of our antics at Pizza Hut. You're afraid of a little transmission? Seriously. All right. So Crazy House Performance says you're a legend and definitely still one of his biggest fans. Love what he does.
I'm a dumbass, but thanks anyways. I'm just a Mopar guy, car guy, grease monkey like you guys.
There's Redbeard 710 in the house. He's got quite a mean car. A-body. He's got a Demon that's blown on methanol, I believe. Looking forward to seeing that run. Bad Tree wants to know who all's going to their local drag strip this weekend. Well, I believe you are.
Going tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I got to work on a house, but trying to fix that. Let's see here. SRP is here, by the way. Is the chat over? I'm reading old chats. You got to skip ahead to the new ones. I'm a little behind trying to catch everybody's that I can. So Muscle City Madness, and this is interesting. He put a B&M kit in, and they are really simplified from the B&M kits of old. The one that he got is nowhere near as involved as the first ones I was doing years ago. They've changed the recipe a little bit. I don't know if you've been using any of B&M stuff, but at least that's what I saw.
It's been a long time since I've used a B&M shift kit. Back then, when I was using them, they give you the gold plate in 2 bits, and you drill the holes. Why they didn't drill the holes themselves while they're making it, I don't know. It's kind of weird, but they're okay kits. They're easy and quick.
Here's an interesting one. Redbeard runs tractor hydraulic fluid to make my converter tighter.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I've heard that. They use John Deere. They go right to John Deere and get the fluid.
That's wild. You read some really interesting stuff here. YouTube browser's up. So Buzz here, Roadkill Custom says, I feel that pole barn. Slush boxes are beyond the skill set of a hard-leaning fabricator. I think that any reasonably intelligent person with opposable thumbs can build a transmission that works. I mean, not saying you can build a transmission for a 4-second car, but I'm saying you can build one that works. Well, SRP, you go for it. So raining slant 6 with a chance of cannonballs. Great username.
.com.
Really? I know building aluminum parts are sometimes hard anodized to improve wear, since magnesium or magnesium/aluminum alloy billet parts are lighter and stronger. Could you use that for drums and planetaries? So aluminum that's anodized, could you use that on your drums and planetaries?
You can't use it on the drums because the bands have to apply that. Then they're not applying the aluminum, they're applying the anodizing, and I would think that would come off. As far as planetary is concerned, since they don't rub on anything, if you're talking about the carriers, yes, but the gears itself, probably not.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I misspoke on Redbeard's car. It's got a big bug catcher on it. It's naturally aspirated. It's injected. Okay. It's got that big bug catcher. I don't know why I was thinking. Let's see. What else do we have going on in here? Dizzy Izzy. Now, he's a local down there. So he does stuff on his channel at Jeffers Motorsports Park where we're going to be running. So he's kind of like eyes and ears on the ground.
So he's going to have an advantage, a home track advantage.
He will. He sure will. So Buzz here says, that's the problem. I cut off one of my opposable thumbs. Well, my thumbs are double jointed. So it literally goes, get that. It goes backwards almost as far as it goes forward. Kind of weirds people out sometimes. SRP says, I'm a 4-speed fella. Well, we've been talking about 4 speeds all evening.
Yeah.
Automatics with 4 speeds.
And don't forget, sticks are for popsicles.
Yeah, Patrick is saying Cope's the real deal and go-to for PTC converters. I hear good things about PTC. I've never run one or anything. Jim says he loves the No Name Nationals concept and don't know anything about social media, but a lot of Mopar content because of the No Name Nationals. Well, the No Name Nationals was Mopar heavy when it was first announced for the only reason that I have a lot of Mopar friends because I'm a Mopar guy, but all makes are welcome there. So the very first wave of registrations that jumped on really, really quick were Mopars. So if you looked at the No Name Nationals hashtag on YouTube in the first few weeks, you're like, oh man, this is all Mopar. Well, for the first couple of weeks, it probably was. But then very quickly, we got guys like Ryan from Streetcar Chronicles bringing his G body, and then we're going to have a Hemi powered Ford truck, LS powered Volvo, and all kinds of stuff. Some imports. Believe me, everything will be there.
It'll all give us Mopar guys someone to pick on.
So this is a good question. Thoughts on the really junky converters? And we know what company it is. We won't say their name, but there's one. When I think of a junky converter, I think of that one name from the 80s.
GER. They're no longer in business, so don't sweat it.
Well, there's some bad ones. There's a few really bad ones that the $200 converter that But what are your thoughts on those type of converters?
Stay away from them.
Yeah. What would you, if you were going to write a recipe for? Listen, now I know this is kind of the opposite of what you normally do, because your stuff is known as high end. It just is. It's good stuff. It's high end. But if you were going to say you had to do something completely different, and you had a budget like working with junkyard parts and such, what would be your highest priority? Let's say that you could only have very few limited aftermarket parts. What would be your highest priority to put in your transmission?
let's say the best bang for the buck.
Yes.
I would have to say the valve body.
The valve body.
Yep. No matter if you want to modify the one yourself by doing a shift kit or getting a reverse manual. And actually, the valve body in reverse pattern is probably also the best upgrade you could make. It really is, because you're getting the pressure, or you're getting the fluid flow, and you're getting the crisp, clean shifts. And that's one thing. Like, if you put a bolt and sprag in there, you're not going to feel it in the seat of your pants. You put a billet drum in there or hardened shafts, you will not feel it in the seat of your pants. The one thing that you will feel is the valve body.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say valve body.
Well, I'll tell you what, I try to keep these. I don't want to abuse the guest. I mean, the time has flown. We're at the 2-hour mark now, but it's just been great. We've been having so much fun. The chat's got so much energy.
Yeah. This has been a great episode, John. I want to thank you for inviting me to this. And also for turning me on to the No Name Nationals. I at first was like, yeah, whatever, but man, I am so looking forward to going. That I can't wait till it happens.
Well, I'll tell that story, and if you guys have any last comments, go ahead and get them in, because we'll wind this down. But I kind of do some guerrilla marketing. Okay, so I've been watching Coach's channel a long time, and so I would just leave a comment like, "So, are we going to see you and Mr. Hanney at the No Name Nationals?" Right? And I didn't get a response the first time. And then the second time I put something like that, that would look really good going down the track at Jeffers, the AHRA No Name Nationals. And then I wrote an email and I followed it up with a comment. He says, "Yeah, I got your email. What's that all about?" And then I think I followed that up with I called the shop. But I'll tell you what, I'm persistent. But I really like to try to get all the cool people of YouTube on board, because this is our homecoming. This is where we get to all meet each other in person. We're going to have a blast and a drag strip, but
it is.
That's how that worked out.
Like I said before earlier, to me, myself, being a car nut, I am going to be awestruck to see certain vehicles, the high-profile cars that are there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I cannot wait to go there and meet all these people. It's going to be great. It's a shame it's only 2 days.
Well, and and thanks to the Roadkill Customs No Name 500, thanks to the No Name 500 class, we got a lot of guys who are stars you'd never heard of if it weren't for this, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, for instance, no one was going to deny Redbeard 710 here. No one was going to deny him. But the fact is that most of us have heard of him because of this and him making content and all to be here. Yeah. And that's one of the cool benefits of this theater, right?
Yeah.
I like Buzz's style. John's in parentheses like that. I don't often have a guest named John. See, Patrick did it too. And Levi can sleep tonight. He's at 3:03.
Excellent.
I'm thrilled for you, Levi.
Excellent.
All right. With that, I'm going to mercifully let John Cope go here. Really appreciate you being on. We do want to thank Buzz while Buzz is up here for sponsoring No Name 500. So if you channels that need help fine-tuning your channel to take it to that next level, you want to be eligible, you want to know what would make my videos more clickable, join our content creator workshop. There's also a link to Roadkill Customs, a special link just for you No Name 500 guys. It's below this video. I want to thank our mods, Just Mopar Joe, Unity Motorsports Garage, and Bad Tree Productions. Blake, there's one of them, and Fubar the Axe. I want to thank all of those guys. And with that, we'll shut it down. And I would love to do a part 2 of this, because we can't discuss all the cool things there possibly is to discuss in any amount of time. So if you're game,
whatever you want, John, all you do is ask. And I want to thank you personally for inviting me to this. It was excellent.
Hey, thanks, man. It's been a barrel of fun. We'll see all you guys later.
Peace out.